In Chiapas, Mexico, Native people had been living in poverty for years as the Mexican government slowly took or sold their lands. Many Native people were left poor and without access to things like health care. In 1983, a group of Mayans called the Zapatistas began to plan a revolt. In 1994, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, was put into action. It was a trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. For Native people, it meant that investors from the U.S. could buy their lands because NAFTA does not recognize tribal land and reservations. Most natives did not have specific reservations, but instead lived on traditional communal lands recognized for centuries by Spanish and Mexican law. There was no more recognition or protection of these lands with NAFTA. The Zapatistas realized it was time to revolt. On January 1st, 1994, the same time NAFTA was put into effect, and after 11 years of planning, the Zapatistas declared war on the Mexican government. The Zapatistas wore masks on their faces as a way to identify each other. Their cries were "Enough is enough" as they took back their land with force. One tactic they used was burning Mexican military posts. The Mexican government sent tanks and bombs to Chiapas. The conflict caused lots of media attention, which the Zapatistas were able to use to spread the knowledge of their cause. The Mexican people agreed with the Zapatistas' demands for better access and land recognition. There were protests in cities all over Mexico, causing the fighting to stop after 12 days, with the Mexican government calling a ceasefire. 300 people died during the conflict. The San Andreas Peace Accord was signed in February 1996, giving autonomy and recognition to the Zapatistas and other native groups. However, relations between the Zapatistas and the Mexican government are incredibly hostile to this day. The Zapatistas were able to build their own schools, community centers, and hospitals with their land. The Zapatistas are still around today and have a thriving community with their own unique communal government. They still reside within the jungle of Chiapas. Zapatista women used the movement as a chance to gain rights. Once Native people had their land back, they were no longer abused by landowners who often took advantage of these women. Zapatista women came up with the Revolutionary Women's Law. This gave them the right to how many kids they want, the right to not be forced into marriage, and the right to choose the work they want to do within the community. This story follows the theme of Native people being oppressed. Women having a unique role in the movement ties into identity. The actions that were taken were the protests by the Mexican people, the Zapatistas declaring war on the Mexican government and fighting, the San Andreas Peace Accord, and the Revolutionary Women's Law. EZLN means the Zapatista Army of National Liberation in Spanish. This was the movement's logo.